politics, entertainment, news, and business. And this is KMTV. We are on your screen, we are everywhere. The best online Liberian platform you have. Make the best use of it. My name is Frank Artis, and I endorse this channel. For politics, entertainment, news, and business. And this is KMTV. We are on your screen, we are everywhere. The best online Liberian platform you have. Make the best use of it. My name is Frank Artis, and I endorse this channel.
Your name is stronger than any name. You're ready? Yeshua, Amashia. Your name is so great. Can start calling you every day. Yeshua, Amashia. Your name is so sweet. I can start calling you every day. Your name is Jesus. Oh, your name is Emmanuel. Yeah, let's go. Yeshua, Amashia. Your name is so great. I can start calling you every day. Yeshua, Amashia. Your name is so sweet. Can stop calling you every day. Lift your voice and say, woo. Your name is Emmanuel. Everybody, let's go say, yeah.
And I tell you, I'd like to say welcome to all of you, wherever you find yourself on this wonderful Sunday thing. That's David Mills, called the Melody Maker, one of Liberian gospel musician. They're starting us up on this wonderful Sunday evening. It's the 18th day of January 2026. My name is Cyrus McGee, coming to you right from the heart of the Twin Cities here in Minnesota, precisely in the city of Brooklyn Park. Brooklyn Park, as you know, is the city with the highest concentration of Liberians here in the U.S. And with the U.S. Going through a lot, especially the state of Minnesota, Brooklyn Park is not an exception. With the ongoing immigration issues, crackdown, and everything. If I'm right, today is day 48 of the immigration crackdown across states in the U.S., but with larger concentration on Minnesota, where thousands of Liberians are residing, either in Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, the two cities with huge numbers of Liberians. There are other cities, including Crystal, New Hope, New Brighton, Maple Grove, Plymouth, the city of St. Paul, and other surrounding areas where Liberians are residing. But most of those cities, people come out of Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, Crystal, where huge Liberian businesses are situated daily to come and out of do purchasing of their goods and services, to or whatever the case may be. Most of the activities are held in these two cities, Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, and other areas adjacent. And with the ongoing immigration crackdown, it's not just about, other communities. Our community is also hit high, especially with Liberians also being affected. There are people who've been going through trauma and all of that. And it's been crazy. Seriously, it's been crazy out here in these last 47, 48 days. And we thought it wise today to bring on here the mayor of our city, Brooklyn Park, one of the city that is, going through this teeth and toe. And Mayor Hollies Winston is a very busy person. He had to step away from his schedule, to talk to us. And we hope not to go too long with him because we know that he has other issues to take care of. And we highly appreciate the fact that he can, put those issues aside just to talk to the community, because he also represents our community, because, like I said, Brooklyn Park is is the city across the U.S. with the highest concentration of librarians. So, with all much ado, I'm going to play this short video of our mayor, and then a short video of the governor of the state of Minnesota, and then we're going to bring Mayor Hollies Winston on. But let's start off first with the governor of Minnesota, Governor Tim Walz, and then we come home to our city.
Of law, and Minnesotans believe in the dignity of all people. We're a place where there's room for everybody, no matter who you are or who you love or where you came from. A place where we feed our kids, we take care of our neighbors, and we look out for those in the shadows of life. We're an island of decency in a country being driven towards cruelty. We will remain an island of decency, of justice, of community, of peace. And tonight I come before you simply to ask, don't let anyone take that away from us. Thank you, protect each other, and may God bless the people of Minnesota.
Winston, mayor of our wonderful city of Brooklyn Park. We recognize that stepped-up federal immigration enforcement efforts in Brooklyn Park and the region are creating anxiety for many within our community. Now, this is especially important in Brooklyn Park given our particular demographics. Our relationship with residents is paramount. Brooklyn Park's strength comes from trust. We're focused on maintaining public safety and ensuring that every family, regardless of background, can live without fear. Our city does not enforce federal immigration laws. The city's role is narrowly focused on maintaining public safety, preserving life, and keeping the peace. Please know that federal agents are not required to tell us when they are in our city. If you do encounter immigration officials, please know you have rights regardless of citizenship status. Now, the city has resources related to immigration and community support in our website, www.brooklynpark.org/human-rights. And when families fear interaction with government, we know that community trust erodes and public safety suffers. We know our Brooklyn Park residents value the excellent customer service and respect our city employees provide to all of you. You see us in the community plowing snow, teaching kids in our recreation programs, and inspecting building permits. You trust us to provide exceptional city services to everyone, something we take pride in. And city employees will have ID badges, drive city identified vehicles, or they will do both. Now, the reality is immigrants are our friends, an integral part of our community. They're our neighbors, owners of the businesses where we shop, where we eat, classmates at school. And immigrants are an essential part of our community. They help make Brooklyn Park who we are. While we can't control federal actions, we can control how we serve our community and Brooklyn Park. We will continue to lead with trust, dignity, and a focus on public safety for everyone who calls this city home.
And I tell you that that's the mayor of the city of Brooklyn Park, Mayor Hollies Winston, there with that message. Earlier on, you heard Governor Tim Walz encouraging people of the state of Minnesota. With all much ado, let me welcome our mayor, the mayor of the city of Brooklyn Park. I know it's not a joyous one. The last time we were here, it was all smiling time here on KMT. But Mayor, it's good to have you, even though it's not as happy as we should be. It's not like a joyous breaking news for our city, the state as a whole. But it's good to have you live on KMTV once more.
Thank you. Thank you.
How's the evening going? Happy New Year. I just want to say that Happy New Year. I know it's the first in the new year, but how's the evening? How did the new year meet you?
Well, last year I thought that I said, we had the airplane crash and then we had the assassination attempt on Senator Hoffman and his wife, and then on the just unbelievable assassination of Speaker Hortman and Mark Hortman. So I didn't think that the city would be, I said statistically the city shouldn't have to deal with much more, but now we're in this situation. So I'm happy that I made it to a new year, but I think we're looking to navigate this situation in a way that takes care of our city, but importantly, the most vulnerable within our city. And I think that's the focus that we've had as a council.
Now, bring us up to speed, if I'm correct, or you can also correct me if I'm not. I believe that today is day 48 of ICE enforcement across Minnesota. Minnesota, Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, other cities adjacent, no exception. Bring us up to speed since this started. What is it like for your city you lead as mayor?
Well, I think we've been looking to craft policy and explain that policy to folks because there has been an impact from the federal presence. I think, our official stance is because of our mission as a city, right? Our mission is to enforce our city laws and regulations, and then where necessary, state laws. The immigration issue is a federal level issue, and federal resources are allocated for those efforts. None of those federal resources reach the state or the city of Brooklyn Park. So we have been narrowly focused on providing public safety for the city of Brooklyn Park, and that's what we have communicated. The other piece I make clear to folks is, ICE does not communicate with our city. They're not, to my knowledge, communicating much with the state of Minnesota. So we have not been working with ICE. And again, we have made it very clear to residents and other folks at a public level that we are focused on the issues of the city and narrowly providing safety there. We want our residents to feel comfortable calling our public safety resources. For example, whether someone has status or not, if they see a crime, we want them to feel comfortable calling Brooklyn Park, our police, or our fire department, right? If they see a crime or they see something happening or someone's health is at risk, we don't want to not be able to serve within that situation because someone is scared of accessing our city resources. So we have that policy. It protects the city, it protects our residents. What we've been seeing in terms of an impact is, I've been touring some of these businesses and I want to find out what they're struggling with. And they are rapidly responding to federal sources at their doors, right? And what we've seen is some businesses are down 50% in revenue. Some are down even further because they've had to close because employees aren't there. Employees are, while legal, are nervous about coming to work because they don't know if they're going to get picked up. And we have had some cases of legal residents being picked up by ICE and then released a few days later, right? But that is incredibly disruptive to people's lives. So we've seen that, and I think it's affecting people and their lives and businesses in a way that it's going to take some time for us to recover from. So that's what I've been seeing. That's what we've been dealing with. But as a city, I think we've been making it very clear to people, if you feel unsafe in a particular situation, ICE has been very respectful to our police. So we encourage people, if they don't feel safe, call our police, and our police and ICE seem to have a respectful, calm rapport, right, in those situations, and situations tend to de-escalate. So I would tell people that in whatever situation you're dealing with, feel free to call Brooklyn Park Police.
Did you in any time see this coming? What we are experiencing as a city, as a state?
I think we prepared for this prior to the election. I think we kind of said, hey, immigration policy will be changing. I think where there's a difference is that ICE has been in Minnesota for quite some time. And our police offices, not just the city of Brooklyn Park, have had a relationship with ICE. We've had a relationship with immigration enforcement. And some of our police officers remember going back to even the Obama days, where I think 3.5 million people were deported with immigration services. I think what is catching people off guard is there's the lines of communication between our city, state are not necessarily open with ICE, and we're looking for those to be reopened. Not because we want to change our mission as a city, but I think when people are put into ICE custody, we often don't have anybody to reach out to, or we don't know about it. So if something is going to happen, we would like to be able to work with the families, notify the families of the resources, who they can reach out to find out what's going on with their family member, right? So I think the lack of communication is really catching people off. I think the aggressiveness at which this is taking place is catching people off, right? And I think as cities, we're kind of saying there's a way to do this that is less disruptive to businesses, that is less disruptive to families. And we saw that done during some other administrations. And we're saying, well, how can we implement some of that so that families are not caught off guard and that businesses can continue and families and communities can grow, operate, thrive, and they're not doing so in an environment of fear.
Now, can you describe? I know you talk about the economic impact on the city. You probably want to talk about other uh, uh, effect that this enforcement action is directly having on Brooklyn Park, or whether it's social services and other things. Can you a little bit elaborate on those?
Well, I think social services, to a large extent, are occurring. I think we have seen, because people are not necessarily at work, or some businesses have shut down. We are anticipating people falling behind on rent, which is going to affect, housing facilities and people who who are overseeing those as well, right? So I think we're concerned about that. We're also concerned that there is food insecurity. Some people are scared to go to their local grocery store, whether they have legal status or not, um, because they've heard about what's going on. And so if they're not getting food, right, if they're not able to get different services, who's going to step in and do that, right? And some of that falls on the city. But some of that falls on outside nonprofits and folks that are in that space to make sure that people are getting their food, and they're not dealing with that food insecurity. So I do think that it is having a market impact in terms of what we can do as a city, and just people feeling safe and comfortable being able to grow their business, make this a thriving community. So I do think that in terms of what we're seeing with that ICE enforcement, there needs to be a de-escalation downwards so that people can move forward with their lives and feel safe within their community. And I also would say that there's this aspect which we've been talking to other mayors, not just nearby mayors, but across the metro area. And one of the things we're saying is our police within the state of Minnesota are held to a particular standard in terms of how they engage people, how they act with people, how they de-escalate a situation, or when they determine they need to escalate a situation. And we're saying that we're asking for that same standard that we're implementing. When people have gone outside that standard within the state of Minnesota, people were held accountable for that. And we're asking for the same thing, that people be held to accountable standards of first trying to de-escalate, and then using modern day police tactics when they carry out things within the constitutional letter of the law, right? And I think one of the arguments I've heard from people that is a bit concerning is that people are saying, well, because you're an immigrant, you have limited rights. Well, under the Constitution, when it comes to people being able to enter your home or enter your business, search you or detain you, those laws still apply to folks, whether they have recognized or unrecognized status within the United States, right? Those are in the Constitution and there's a number of lawyers that are saying, and this has been established long before my tenure as mayor, that are saying those laws still apply in terms of how you treat people. And I think that's one of the things that the forefathers wanted to make very clear, that, due process is important, right? Whether you believe one thing or another about somebody, that due process is extended to them. And then it's on you to prove that through due process, but you're not going to prove it before. That's the opposite of due process. So I think that's going to be important for people to lean into as we explain what we're looking for as a state and as a city.
Have you observed any form of you know any changes in trust from the community members towards law enforcement in these times of ICE raid and all of that?
I think there's been general trust. I think there's, and this is something that I think the civil rights movement struggled with. I think movements around liberation have always struggled with, is that the communities that are most affected should be the voices that are most heard, because they're the ones that want to get the facts correct. One of, I think, the threats to the movement is, I've got a number of emails from people within the Brooklyn Park community that are not from within the communities that are affected, that are proposing different solutions that our community, immigrant communities, African heritage communities, are kind of saying that's not necessary at this point, because that will escalate the situation. And frankly, it's untrue. So one of the things that people have been saying as well, you as a city need to prevent federal resources from using your public lands, right? And so we've run this by a number of lawyers, not just our internal lawyer, but other lawyers with other organizations. And there have been some cities who have said you can't use our resources. And what's happened is that ICE and the feds have kind of said, hey, listen, we're going to use them anyway, because they have an interpretation of the law that we think is more in line. Unfortunately, it is what it is, right? And so people want us to prevent people from using public lands. They can't use parks. You can't use the city counts, the city hall parking or police parking areas, right? Well, those are public. So if we can't keep them from the general public, how would we keep them from the federal government, right? And I think because we have seen federal people use some of those areas for staging, they're attributing that to the city of Brooklyn Park, which couldn't be the furthest from the truth, right? We've made it very clear. We understand our mission as the city. We also understand the resources that we're working with. We're not entering into federal policy because that's for the feds to do. So I would tell people, don't conflate your misinterpretation of the law, or something that emotionally you wish to see, right, with something that we are required to do as a city. That is how we escalate situations. And while you may not be at risk, there's somebody within our city who is vulnerable, who is at risk if they run with an incorrect interpretation of what's going on. So to come back all the way around to your question, sir, I think that people generally trust Brooklyn Park Police. I do think it's people that are not within the immigrant or African heritage or African American community who are pushing for something that is outside of what the truth is, right? That are basically trying to sow some dissent between our police, our public safety, and residents. But the majority of residents understand that the city of Brooklyn Park, of which our police department, our fire department, our parks and rec are part of, right? All those departments, they understand that the city stands with our residents. We're supportive of our residents, and we're going to do that in a way that is that makes sense for our residents.
So how is the city ensuring that all residents, regardless of immigration status, feel safe accessing essential, services, including healthcare, schools, and emergency response, and all of those?
Well, I think that's the difficulty here, right? And I think some of that we can send out a limited amount as a city. Within a city, we control our police, our fire, parks and rec, and the different departments under the city. When it comes to working with schools or healthcare, those are systems that stand outside of Brooklyn Park. And those are under the purview of sometimes the county, sometimes the state, sometimes the school board. And so if they come to us, if any of those entities come to us and they say, listen, within our role, we have these particular concerns. How can we sit down with the city of Brooklyn Park? We're just going to sit down with them, and we're going to make sure that we're providing what's necessary to keep our residents safe and to de-escalate situations that could get scary for the most vulnerable within the community, right? I think for us, we've released language letting people know how we're using our resources. I think we've gone and we've talked to community leaders, we've talked to business owners, and we've told them how they can access particular resources. If you go online, I don't have the website in my head right now, but if you go to our website, there's resources that people can access, whether legal or otherwise, right? So we've made very clear, these are the resources that are available for you, right? But as a city, we're going to stay narrowly within this. I do think that part of why the community is a little nervous is because they're getting contradictory messages, and they're not getting them from one centralized source. So the federal government is pretty much all on the same page when it comes to the administration. They've said, this is our policy. I think at the state level, people are unsure of, well, how is the governor interacting with metro area cities? How is he interacting with rural cities? What are the policies that he's going to implement? What are the resources that he is deploying? How are they going to work with that? How are they going to deal with particular situations that are going to come up? So I think a lot of cities are saying, that's fine. If that's not there, we're going to figure this piece out. School boards are saying the same thing, right? I think if there was a much more centralized approach to say, given the legality of what we're dealing with ICE and the federal government, this is how we can deploy these resources in a way that cities and counties and other people buy onto, I think there would be a lot less questions. But for now, I think we're having to carve out an approach with other cities. I think we're going to be working with counties, right? We're carving something out that we believe is within the letter of the law, and also at the same time respects the most vulnerable within our communities.
So do you think that these? I know you talk about the communication strategies, but are there plans to make sure that these information, whether it's coming from the statewide, probably the governor's office, or the cities, that your community can just get them down at first hand and avoid this entire mis and disinformation you spoke about?
Mhm. So I think some of this is, people have reached out to me one-on-one. I'm happy to have those. I think we have done outreach to businesses. We're doing it to communities. We'll continue to meet with community leaders. I'm having this meeting with you. I think for us, some of this information we can share with trusted leaders,
Okay.
right? And they're going to have to get that information out themselves. And I think a lot of this we have posted on our website, and we put an official policy. I think aside from that, if we over communicate, that invites questions, which create sometimes misunderstandings that people will take and run with, right? And I think we have made it very clear that narrowly as a city, these are the resources we're given. This is what municipalities, not just in Minnesota, but across the country, this is what municipalities do. They work on local safety. We do not have resources to do to engage, right, in federal level policy. Taxpayers couldn't afford that. And then also, given what cities are supposed to do, we're not inclined to step into that arena, right? So I think we've made that very clear to people. And I don't know if we can go much further than that without causing confusion within communities.
And that's a huge one indeed, because the information dissemination is important. How people, share these messages and how they are filtered down to the community makes a huge impact. But has City Hall taken any formal action, if such, as maybe resolution, policy changes, or partnership to just support undocumented residents or advocate at state or federal levels?
Well, I think there's no official policy that needs to be voted in this regard. I think we have made it clear to our state house and state senators that when you see businesses that are down 50% revenue, some of 100% revenue, employees are, when this passes, employees may or may not have a job to come back to, right? I think when we look at what happened during the pandemic, there is a role for the state government to get involved and say, how do we make sure we provide some sort of remedy for what we're seeing with businesses? And this just isn't in Brooklyn Park, right? It's across the state. How do we provide some remedy to help folks deal with what they're dealing with economically? So I think there's a place for the state house and the state senate to do that. I've communicated that as such to our leaders, all of our state house and state senate delegation for Brooklyn Park. We've met with them during a legislative session, and we communicated that. And that was one of the first things that we communicated. I think policy-wise, we made it very clear where our police stand. And if people feel like they're in an unsafe situation, no matter what the situation, feel free to call our police. We have also released a policy making it very clear. And I think we did this before all of this happened, which I think sometimes feel like the city's not doing anything. But we created a policy well before all this happened because we were looking to get ahead of it. And that policy basically says we're not in the business of asking people their immigration status. And if you think about how many times people interact with the city of Brooklyn Park, right? If we started asking immigration status and trying to enforce that, our capacity to do the business of the city would seriously be affected. And then on the public safety lane, you can't just say you're in support of public safety and then put policies in place where people are scared to call our police, call 911, deal with our fire because they're worried about their immigration status. That could mean theoretically, and we've seen situations like this actually, right? Where if someone gets hit by a car in the city of Brooklyn Park, if we had certain policies in place that scared the community, right? Someone gets hit by a car, someone drives by and says, oh, my immigration status, I don't want to call the police, right? Or I don't want to call 911. That person could be laying in the road an extra 5 minutes and their life could pass because someone said, I am scared to engage with the city of Brooklyn Park. So we have made it very clear that is not an area for us to be involved in because we are concerned about the public safety of our city. And we want people, no matter what situation, to be able to interact with our services so that we can keep people safe.
Now, over the last 47, 48 days, what can you say about, schools, community organizations responding to the situation, and what role is City Hall playing? What have you seen so far when it comes to these, and what role is City Hall playing?
Well, I think that the city has a role in terms of basic blocking and tackling of government, whether it's public safety, whether it's the Parks and Recs Department. I think we have seen a number of nonprofits and other people step in and get involved with helping to provide people resources. But as far as civil disobedience, right? The city of Brooklyn Park is the city of Brooklyn Park government, and so we govern for everybody. And so, as far as civil disobedience, there are people that that's what they do. They do civil disobedience. We, as a city, we operate within the letter of the law because we are trying to hold up people being safe within our city and within our community. So, that's not a question I'm going to delve too into. But I will say that we are supportive of, listen, if we think people are dealing with food insecurity, if we think people are going to have rent issues, right, there are already processes in place that are unrelated even to this moment in time, right, that our city has resources, access to resources, that we can point people in the right direction. And that's something we will continue to do regardless of immigration status. But as far as, civil disobedience, I think that is something that city councilors have to make a decision on themselves. But I think from our perspective, we are saying, I am saying at least that from a public safety component, right, I just need the number one responsibility of any city is to make sure that all people who live within that city, no matter what status, are safe from violence, from harassment, from all these other issues. And so we're really looking to create an environment that even in these difficult times, people feel safe interacting with us.
I know, Mayor, I did not intend to keep you long because I had to get you out of another meeting just to be here to talk to your people. But with everything that is going on, ICE versus what is city, the police from the various cities, and all of that, looking at the governor talking about activating, if possible, the National Guard. And off the heels of that, we understand Pentagon is planning on releasing 1,500 active duty military personnel onto just Minnesota. What would this mean for our cities?
Well, I think, some of this stuff, we in Minnesota don't want to see, I think from a regular resident perspective, right? We don't want to feel like the National Guard has to be activated. We don't want to feel like there's going to be 1,500 more federal troops within the state of Minnesota. I think that leadership at the state level, the county, municipal level, right? We have to find ways to make things work within the state of Minnesota to keep people safe, right? And so I don't have a ton to say to that because I have a meeting with a number of mayors Monday, even though it's Martin Luther King's birthday. I think it's important that we continue to do this work, but we have a meeting to say, well, what can we craft in terms of policy to help lead on this? In some situations, I think you have people on the far right who want to escalate. You got people on the far who want to escalate and see those federal troops. I think you got people on the far left who are saying ICE out no matter what. I think from those who are watching and getting the phone calls personally and having to intervene and direct people to resources, I think we are saying we want the whole situation, if possible, to be de-escalated to where Minnesotans can get back to living how they lived in the past. And that is not going to happen with 1,500 federal troops. Things are going to change drastically if the National Guard has to be put out there. And I think if we have 2,000 to 3,000 agents more than what we had of ICE in the past, because ICE has been here for some time, they just moved much differently, right? I think we know that things are not going to be normal. And so I think a lot of us are saying, how do we find ways, given our role, our specific role, to make sure that people are safe, that we are de-escalating situations to the best of our ability, and that in the long term, because I don't know that if this is a fight. I think a lot of people, if I'm honest, right, and I didn't really want to have to go down this path, but I think what some people feel like they're experiencing is something that African Americans and specifically African Americans and folks in the LIB community, given our connection, right, have dealt with for some time. And so they feel like at the state level, they are dealing with being targeted in a certain regard. And so I think some people are saying, I have never felt that level of pressure or targeting, where you and I have dealt with that in the past for no reason, right? And so I think they're saying, I want this to be done as soon as possible. This has got to be done as soon as possible.
From what you see, do you see a closure anytime soon?
Well, that's what I'm getting at, right? Is that when you talk about the civil rights movement, right? It wasn't like MLK and them were doing anything wrong, right? That was the government's position at the time. That was their particular position. And so MLK and a lot of that civil rights leadership had to draw a stark contrast between how they were being treated and what they were actually doing on the ground. So when you see folks protesting, peacefully and making a point, right, about, hey, we don't agree with these policies, that's the same thing MLK was doing, was drawing a very real contrast. That didn't change overnight. I don't think this has to be a 10 or 15 year process. But what I am telling people who maybe have never personally experienced the level of discrimination that African Americans and other people have experienced for quite some time, right? There's a way to comport yourself and deal with this, right? And I think that's where we're at. So you pressuring and saying this will be done overnight and let's escalate to this being done overnight. I think there has to be a real strategy in terms of how are we going to deal with this situation and how are we going to make very clear our stance as people who are dealing with this and seeing families broken apart, right? And the destruction that's occurring in communities to where businesses are leaving, people are struggling to eat, people feel unsafe, right? They're scared to go out business as usual. We have to show the contrast of that versus whatever policies people disagree with. And I think leadership throughout the state needs to realize this is where we are at that moment in time. So you turning to the same political playbook that you've always turned to is not going to have the same impact as you understanding the moral center and the higher ground that MLK and those leaders had, right? So I think there's a disconnect in terms of where we're at and the leadership understanding how you have to move to make that case. You don't have to make the case to a lot of Minnesotans because Minnesotans increasingly agree. Even people across the country are agreeing. But you have to make the case to such a critical mass of people that they say, okay, this has to change. And I think people have to realize that's where we are at in this moment of time.
So I know before I leave you, Mayor, a typical day, somebody intending to get out there with all of this thing going on, where were you born? Who are you? What would you advise a regular person getting out there on a typical day? What should they watch out for and how should they respond to these questions?
It's a difficult situation, right? I mean, I'm not inclined to tell people to feel like you have to travel with your passport. I will say carry your normal, what you normally carry in terms of your ID. But I understand that if I'm an immigrant, you feel compelled to carry your passport, right? So for a lot of people, I'm saying you have to make the decision according to what's comfortable with you. If I tell someone as the mayor, carry your passport, right? I'm co-signing something that I think should not be required by American law, right? I don't think you should have to prove citizenship status if you're just in the state of Minnesota, right? You shouldn't have to I shouldn't have to go outside and say, look, I'm proving to you that I'm this thing. That's not how the Constitution works, right? You get your due process, you get all these other things. If I say you have to go out there with that as the mayor, right? That is telling people that, hey, I think we should suspend due process. And I co-sign that. I don't co-sign that. But as someone, if I was someone's father, right? If that was my cousin or sister, right? I don't know how I would tell them to act. Right? There's a difference because as mayor, I'm saying I know that you are guaranteed these particular rights. But if it's someone that was close to me, then people begin to hedge. So that is the issue. That's one of the issues that we're dealing with is that a lot of leadership are saying, I understand the law. I understand what America is and should be and must continue to be. And other people are saying, yeah, but I want to make sure that I come back home to my mother and my father or my children or whoever I care about. And that is one of the issues when I tell people, when you are advising the communities that are affected by this, right? Understand that the position I am in may be different from you are in, may be different from the position they are in. So you do not get to easily legislate and say, well, you need to escalate and do this and do that, because you may not be in as vulnerable a position as they are. And somebody may come to a particular neighborhood, right? And they may say, all of you get out the car. Everybody gets out the car. And then all the people that look like me, they say, we need this proof. And then somebody who looks like some of the Stevens and the Karens, right, and the Beths that contact me and they want to scream, they may say, you don't need to prove anything. You go on about your merry way, right? So I would say that, it's not, I know you feel like you said, well, I tried to ask the guy an easy question. It's not an easy question because as mayor, I know that you have certain inalienable rights, right? But I also know that as a community, people are trying to figure out how to navigate this on the ground. And my community has dealt with that ever since we have been here.
All right, Mayor. So as we wrap it up, what will be your message to the community finally? As we all hope that this goes away very soon, but as we are facing the time we are in right now, what will be your message to the community as we wrap up?
I would say recognize who your allies are, and understand that you and they are both in a difficult position and that you have to work together to get through these difficult times. Our country has been through difficult times before. And I think that if we're going to draw a contrast between what we're experiencing and what we should be experiencing, we have to understand that we have to comport ourselves in a way that we are proud of, and that we believe in, and that we can justify 5, 10, 20 years down the road, because there are people that are watching our particular behavior. I would say as mayor, our city council is very supportive of all of our community. And I think there are people that want us to say that we are supportive of one particular part of the community or how they define the community. We are supportive of all of our community. And so that means that we are going to make policy that respects those that are most vulnerable within our community. And I think we are doing that. The last thing I will say is understand that our city resources, our public safety resources exist for the residents of the city of Brooklyn Park. And we're going to continue to move from that perspective. So if you feel unsafe in a situation, call. Our police are very much in the trained to de-escalate under situations. They've got that body cam that takes footage of everything. So understand that 911, no matter who you are in Brooklyn Park, is open for you and it's there for you. And feel free to continue to use our services as a city and know that we stand with our residents at this time. We care about them and we're doing all that we can to make sure that they're supported.
Mayor Hollies Winston, he's the mayor of the city of Brooklyn Park. Mayor, it was wonderful having you this evening. I know it's a tough time, it's a troubling time, not just for your city, but the entire state and parts of the U.S. as well. But we all pray that this goes away very soon. Thanks for stepping away from the schedule and coming on here to talk to your people. As you know, like I said, Brooklyn Park is the largest concentration of Liberians within the U.S. And I know you've been having this hard knock on your doors from our communities and other communities around the state as well. But we hope that this goes away soon. If there is any information you need to have our people get, you know how to get me. I'm just a phone call away. And
I'll call you, but I'll make sure the city reaches out to you and get you the information you need. You're supposed to have me on for 20, 30 minutes, man, but you
yeah, and we go almost
much longer.
So when we start a conversation, there are a lot to it. I appreciate the fact that you could stay with us all of this time. Have yourself a wonderful evening and God bless.
You too. Appreciate it. Thank you. God bless.
Right, that's Mayor Hollies Winston. He's the mayor of the city of Brooklyn Park here in Minnesota, talking about the issues as it relates to the entire ICE crackdown situation, what should be done, what's happening in the city, what impact this has caused our city and other cities around. And it was good having you. We hope that we can all stay out there, stay safe. Have yourself a wonderful evening. I'll leave you with this one.
In the rule of law, and Minnesotans believe in the dignity of all people. We're a place where there's room for everybody, no matter who you are or who you love or where you came from. A place where we feed our kids, we take care of our neighbors, and we look out for those in the shadows of life. We're an island of decency in a country being driven towards cruelty. We will remain an island of decency, of justice, of community, of peace. And tonight I come before you simply to ask, don't let anyone take that away from us. Thank you, protect each other, and may God bless the people of Minnesota.
As Hollies Winston, mayor of our wonderful city of Brooklyn Park. We recognize that stepped-up federal immigration enforcement efforts in Brooklyn Park and the region are creating anxiety for many within our community. Now, this is especially important in Brooklyn Park given our particular demographics. Our relationship with residents is paramount. Brooklyn Park's strength comes from trust. We are focused on maintaining public safety and ensuring that every family, regardless of background, can live without fear. Our city does not enforce federal immigration laws. The city's role is narrowly focused on maintaining public safety, preserving life, and keeping the peace. Please know that federal agents are not required to tell us when they are in our city. If you do encounter immigration officials, please know you have rights regardless of citizenship status. Now, the city has resources related to immigration and community support in our website, www.brooklynpark.org/human-rights. And when families fear interaction with government, we know that community trust erodes and public safety suffers. We know our Brooklyn Park residents value the excellent customer service and respect our city employees provide to all of you. You see us in the community plowing snow, teaching kids in our recreation programs, and inspecting building permits. You trust us to provide exceptional city services to everyone, something we take pride in. And city employees will have ID badges, drive city-identified vehicles, or they will do both. Now, the reality is immigrants are our friends, an integral part of our community. They're our neighbors, owners of the businesses where we shop, where we eat, classmates at school. And immigrants are an essential part of our community. They help make Brooklyn Park who we are. While we can't control federal actions, we can control how we serve our community and Brooklyn Park. We will continue to lead with trust, dignity, and a focus on public safety for everyone who calls this city home.
LRB Ship Express, your trusted door-to-door shipping partner from the Midwest in the USA to Liberia. LRB Ship Express is your go-to solution for fast, reliable, and affordable shipping services. Whether it's barriers, boxes, or personal items, we pick them up from right at your doors across the Midwest and deliver them straight to your loved ones in Liberia. Do you need it there quickly? Our air freight service gets your packages to Liberia in just a matter of days. Door-to-door convenience, secure and timely delivery, unbeatable rates. LRB Ship Express. For more information, call cell numbers 651-500-8973 or 612-806-5896. Visit our website at www.lrbshipexpress.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at LRB Ship Express. Ship with LRB Ship Express, where your shipment is our priority. Contact us today and let's get it moving.
For politics, entertainment, news, and business. And this is KMTV. We are on your screen, we are everywhere. The best online Liberian platform you have. Make the best use of it. My name is Frank Adams, and I endorse this channel.